In 2025, Angela Lips, a 60-year-old grandmother from Tennessee, was sitting in her living room when a tactical team of federal marshals violently battered down her door and arrested her at gunpoint. The accusation brought by those federal agents was severe: armed bank robbery. But the crime happened in Fargo, North Dakota, 1,200 miles away from Angela's home. The police had zero physical evidence. They had no GPS data placing her there and no human witnesses. The entire arrest warrant was based on a single piece of paper. Investigators in Fargo, North Dakota, ran a blurry, low-resolution ATM surveillance photo through a facial recognition software program called Clearview AI. The machine spit out Angela's driver's license photo and labeled it a 98% high-confidence match. The software suffers from a massive demographic blind spot. Under federal testing standards, these systems struggle heavily with training data skew. The error rates for identifying elderly women and people of color are up to 100 times higher than for young white men. When an algorithm labels a citizen, the presumption of innocence begins to erode before a human investigator even looks at the file. The police didn't see a grandmother, they saw a 98% match and mobilized the full weight of federal power based on that number alone. Facial recognition converts your features into an abstract mathematical sequence called an n-dimensional vector. It compares this sequence to a massive database, calculating Euclidean distance to find statistical proximity. The system has absolutely no concept of human identity. Because the system relies entirely on geometry, it possesses zero common sense. Computer scientists constantly expose this flaw using a technique called adversarial attacks. In one famous experiment, researchers placed a small, brightly colored psychedelic sticker next to a simple banana. An AI system highly confident it was looking at fruit suddenly became 99% confident that the entire image was a toaster. If a geometric pattern printed on a $5 sticker can convince a supercomputer that a banana is a kitchen appliance, the poor lighting and heavy pixelation of an ATM camera easily maps an innocent grandmother onto the profile of a bank robber. You have to ask the obvious question: how did human detectives look at the surveillance tape of the actual criminal in North Dakota, look at a 60-year-old grandmother in Tennessee, and fail to see the mistake? The answer is a psychological flaw called automation bias. Human beings are biologically wired to trust machines. When a computer screen presents a definitive answer, the human brain simply shuts down its own critical thinking and stops searching for errors. Seeing that 98% probability label effectively neutralized the police officer's basic deductive reasoning. The machine gave them an answer, and they accepted it without question. The fatal failure in this case belongs to the humans in charge. Authorities willingly let a digital checkmark replace due process, completely severing the investigative feedback loop that keeps the justice system grounded in reality. Once that AI report leaves the police precinct, a dangerous bureaucratic telephone game begins. By the time the file crosses state lines and lands on a judge's desk, the software's probability has miraculously transformed into unquestionable, absolute fact. The physical fallout is immediate and automated. Her bank accounts were frozen. Her credit score plummeted as institutions automatically reacted to the federal warrant in the system. She sat in a jail cell for 6 agonizing months due to multi-state extradition delays. During that half year, she lost her car, faced auto eviction from her home, and her dog died in an animal shelter because she wasn't there to care for it. The philosopher Hannah Arendt wrote extensively about the banality of evil, how ordinary bureaucrats can cause immense destruction simply by executing orders without thinking. Today, we are witnessing the digital evolution of that concept. Officials ruin lives simply by unthinkingly executing the output of a machine. This creates a system of responsibility laundering. The police point to the AI, the developers point to the police, the state simply shrugs. A citizen's entire existence is erased, and no individual human being has to take the moral or legal blame. This isn't an isolated American glitch. Across the Atlantic, the UK Post Office spent years prosecuting hundreds of innocent employees for theft, based entirely on faulty accounting software. In both cases, the machine was wrong, and the human institutions blindly enforced the error. The French philosopher Michel Foucault described the panopticon, a prison structure where inmates constantly police their own behavior because they never know exactly when they are being watched. Ubiquitous cameras and invisible algorithms now force modern citizens into a state of constant, anxious self-censorship out of fear of being digitally misidentified. In the 2026 sci-fi film Mercy, starring Chris Pratt, society is governed by an AI judge that sentences suspects based entirely on predictive probability scores. The public treated it like Hollywood fiction. We've reached a point where an abstract digital vector carries more institutional weight than the physical reality of where a person was, or what they actually did. In courtrooms and police precincts, the probability score is becoming the primary evidence. Fortunately, humans are beginning to fight back. Lawmakers inside the Tennessee Capitol are currently debating two major pieces of legislation, Senate Bill 2611 and House Bill 2612. The core mandate of these bills is to strip the algorithm of its absolute authority. Legally, it downgrades AI matches from establishing probable cause to serving as mere investigative leads. It mandates that police officers must acquire hard corroborating evidence, like financial receipts or eyewitness testimony, before they can make an arrest. The law forcefully pries the human feedback loop back open. While technology will inevitably produce mathematical glitches, but the algorithmic Leviathan only becomes a tyrant when the human beings in charge surrender their responsibility to doubt.